Hi there, welcome to Light from Above. My name is David Kenney. Glad you could be with us today. We have two very special guests I'd like to introduce to you. These are my parents. This is my father, Warren Kenney, and my mother, Kay Kenney. And my dad was willing to come in to deliver some of the lessons. He's having a gospel meeting right now in Wadsworth. We'll show you the flyer from that. Of course, by the time this airs, the meeting will have been concluded. However, he came into the studio and he's delivered some of this material that you'll be able to watch and learn and appreciate these lessons that he was willing to come in. And to do that, he's talking about the Christian man. And that's what we've been talking about through this meeting. And then the subsequent episodes of Light from Above, you'll be able to see some of the lessons, the material that he presented. So we're really glad that they were able to come in and welcome you to the program. So,
Thank you.
It's a great honor. It's sort of like the pinnacle. I'll never have any more important guests than my parents. That's the way I look at it. And but we wanted you to be able to meet them, and we'll talk a little bit about some of our family history. There's reasons for it. There's reasons why I brought some pictures in. They haven't seen any of the questions. They haven't seen really any of the photographs or anything like that. They really have no idea what's coming. Scripted and all that, but they're still my parents, and they can still punish me, and so we'll just go from there. I want to start with Dad first. You're talking about the Christian man, and one of the things that always impressed me throughout my life was your family background, our family background. For example, we'll show a picture here. This is a picture, you won't be able to see it without turning around, but I'll tell you what it is. It's a picture of your father. It's a picture of my grandpa, which would be Otto, and then a picture of Grandma with the hat, with the with the smile and the apron and all that you always like. And then in the bottom corner there is a picture with your peach-colored suit and her with that really bright, beautiful dress that she was wearing. And for those of you who don't know, the person there in the top left in the black and white photograph is George Wittenbrook Kenney. That's my dad's father. He passed away on April 17th, 1948, and my dad was not even 4 years old yet. And you can imagine about how much of an impact that would be on a family to lose their father. Dad is he's the youngest of three. We'll show you a little bit about some of the family and all that. And years later, my grandmother, his mother, would remarry Otto Saffel. And so her name, I guess if you was to look it up in the genealogy tables, would be Hazel Marie Henthorne Kenney Saffel, would be correct, right? Yeah.
That's it.
So, and one of the things that, in the upcoming lessons, you're going to see that my dad likes a lot of bright colors. As a matter of fact, he has a pretty well bright collar there. And you want to tell him a little bit where you got this love for collar?
I sure do. From my mother. My mother lived to be about 83 years old, and she loved bright colors. When Kay and I would go to shop for her a birthday dress or some sort of a Christmas present, if we were going to buy clothing, I always looked for the brightest colors I could find, and she didn't hesitate to wear them. She loved bright colors, and she passed those bright colors on to me. I love bright colors, and I appreciate you asking that question.
Oh, sure.
To give me a chance to talk about my wonderful mother.
Yeah, she's. I tell people that when you watch shows like The Waltons and like Little House on the Prairie and the Wilderness Kind of Family, things like that. You're talking. We're talking about a point in time in our nation's history when he passed away. Our nation, is really, it's World War II, and when these things happened, and we'll show you another picture. This is a picture of our, some of our aunts and our uncles. This would be Aunt Marie, Uncle Joe. I think it's Uncle Bob and Uncle Harold. I always call them Uncle because that's what you always called them.
Right.
And then there's a picture. The black and white photograph is a picture of Grandma with Stanley, Bobby, and you. And I think there's two dogs. I think one was Bob, it seems like. I can't remember the two dogs' names. You may remember, I don't know.
Well, I can't see the picture, but if I remember correctly, it's Tags and Tinker.
Tags and Tinker. So they lived out on a farm that was, I believe, called the Straight Place.
Straight Place.
Straight Place. You'll see here also there's a picture of Dad next to the stone of his father. This is at West Union Cemetery in Monroe County, Ohio. And then the other picture is a picture that was taken at the reunion, the church reunion, and it has Stanley and Uncle Bobby and yourself there at that reunion. Grandma had 3 sons. They're in chronological order in that bottom right picture. Stanley passed away a little bit ago, and Uncle Bobby and Dad there. And it's, there's a lot of memories there. There was a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges that that your mother had to endure, and she didn't do it alone, but she still had a large responsibility to do that. And one of the things that impressed me, there's a lot of things. One of them is, you told me that when we were at your visit where you grew up, and your father passed away, and they actually had him lay in state there at the house, if I recall.
That's right.
And why don't you tell them, a little bit about, when the funeral was over and everything, Grandma wanted, they wanted her to come and live with family or someone, but she wouldn't do that, would she?
No, she did not want to do that. But I want to comment first, if I may.
Sure.
On that one picture that was shown previously of her with the hat, and I think maybe a sack around her, hanging around her neck. I had been out ginseng hunting, and I came in. Of course, I teased my mother a lot, but I came in and she was there in the house, and we were doing various things, and I pulled my ginseng sack off and hung it over her head, around her neck, and my hat, I took it off and put it on her head, and Kay took her picture, and believe it or not, that picture has become, between Kay and I, our very favorite picture of my mother. We've enjoyed that picture all through the years. Now, as to when my daddy died, I don't remember, as far as remembering personally. I have no memory of him, but I have been told by my mother that after the funeral, and perhaps during all the visitation, all that, there were different family members that tried to get her to agree, in love, to go and live with a member of the family, at least for a while. And she said, no, the longer I put it off, going back to the Straight Place, the longer I put it off, the harder it's going to be, and I'm going to take my boys and I'm going to take them home. And that's what she did. She was a very courageous woman. She was small. She probably came up about there on me, but she was big in a lot of ways. And one of the ways she was big in courage. And that went on display it's been displayed in many ways, but it went on display in a very emphatic way when she said, I'm taking my boys and I'm going home.
Yeah, for those that I did a little bit of research. My parents don't know. I mean, they know the information, but I was looking at information about your father, and he finished high school and went on to do some work, obviously. But looking at the records in a census report, it seems like it said that Grandma went through the 8th grade, and that's as much formal education that she received. But it was a one-room schoolhouse, and I mean, she had so much wisdom and so much knowledge. And in our day and age, we tend to think, people say, well, you go and you get a college degree, and it'll make you smart. Well, a lot of times, sometimes it makes you more of a smart aleck than a smart, more intelligent. And a lot of people, sometimes they don't realize the great wisdom that people have if they don't have a degree. Now today, it's sort of interesting because now the degree isn't even enough. They want you to have certification on top of it. And it's interesting to watch that. But when you look at results and accomplishments, you're talking about someone that has an 8th grade education. She's a widow. This is before the Great Society. So there wasn't any of the safety nets that they have like we have today. There was none of that, or very little of it. And and all these obstacles, to be able to take 3 boys and to and to rear them, and for them to I mean, that's a major devastation to a family. But yet she was able to rally that together with the help of brothers and sisters and family and friends there, and to be able to move on. And that's one of the questions I want to ask you. And here's the question, I'll put it to you. How can a person who did not have the TV perfect family life have a fruitful and productive life themselves? I mean, how can they do that? Is it even possible?
Well, she says yes, it is possible, but it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of being willing to accept help when you need it. And she received a lot of her help from her daddy, my grandfather. My mother was a daddy's girl, and Grandpa lived out the ridge, probably 3/4 of a mile through the woods, and there was an old logging road, and he would drive his horses and wagon or sled or whatever it was, whatever tool he was bringing to the farm to help her do whatever she needed. Whether it be cut hay or whatever it was that she needed, her daddy was there for her, and that helped her. But not only so, we can all build successful lives. And by successful, I'm not talking necessarily about making a lot of money, but I'm talking about lives that are good moral lives, lives that are pleasing unto God. We can all do it, but it takes courage. And I've been emphasizing the fact that it takes time and it takes self-discipline. And my mother had probably more self-discipline and wisdom than I could even explain. And I'm happy to say right here on camera, I see a lot of that trait in you. And I'm glad that it's come down.
Well, she's a very special lady. If I had time, I'd love to bring in just some of her voice talking, because anybody that hears her voice, it's just precious, the sound of her voice, and all the wisdom that she had, and all that. And that's one of the things, one of the reasons that I wanted you to do this lesson, because we have homes, we have people that are broken. I mean, they're just broken. They've had devastating blows. Their family life has been had severe blows against it, whether in your case it was the death of your father, or maybe it's divorce, or maybe they never had a family. Maybe maybe their parents, one of their parents wasn't there, and it's really important for people to understand that just because you may start from a different point doesn't mean you can't move forward with God's help, and to be able to overcome those things. And still, a lot of people blame God. A lot of people blame God when God's really the one trying to help them. And some people don't see that, and they don't understand that. They're quick to blame God for these things, but they don't realize that God is the one that's actually trying to help them to have, like Jesus said, that they may have life, and they may have it more abundantly. And sadly, a lot of people, they write God off before they've ever really sat back and thought about it. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have you deliver these lessons, because it isn't just about what the Bible says, which is paramount importance, but you also bring a lot of experience to it as well. I mean, it's not, you can hear people talk, but you're not just talking it, you're walking in it as well, and that's very important. Let's switch to my mother a little bit. This is a picture of my mother's mother. This is Carrie Mildred Mayhew Stonebreaker. This is also a picture in the top right of my mom and dad. I think this is when they were expecting me, if I remember correctly. Right. And then the bottom right is her with her little boy. That would be me. And this is, I believe, probably in Westerville, where you met. Mom's mother passed away September 18th, 1954, if I have that right.
That's right.
and you weren't quite 9 years old yet.
No, shoot. It was 1 week before my 9th birthday when Mommy died.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but you can say it.
I can say it.
That'd be fine.
That's all right.
And you know, she married Harry Eldred Stonebreaker.
That's
Now,
right.
the picture here is a picture that you gave to Deborah, which I believe is a picture that was made just right before she got married.
I'm not sure when that picture was made. She was fairly young, but I don't know when exactly the picture was made.
Probably that time frame.
Probably.
Okay.
But one of my aunts sent me that picture. And it was, well, in fact, it was one of my mother's brother's wife had the picture and mailed it to me. I had seen the picture before, but I didn't have it until then.
Now, Mom's family, 3 children.
Yes.
You know, you had Harry Stonebreaker Jr., and he prefers to, I guess it's go by Stoney now, I believe.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what we still call him Junior sometimes.
Yeah. And then your sister Rita.
Rita.
And then, now, were you the middle or the youngest?
I'm the middle.
Yeah, so I thought middle child and then Rita. So you have 3 children. It's a similar kind of situation in
Yes,
some ways, but
in
there's
some ways.
differences too.
Yes.
You lived in Westerville?
No, when Mommy died, we lived in Columbus.
Okay.
And after Mommy died, my dad remarried. And when he remarried, we moved to Westerville.
Okay, so when you met Dad, you were in Westerville.
We were living in Westerville.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you were born in Columbus?
Yes. I
Okay,
was
so
born.
Columbus, Ohio. So that's what I thought, but I thought I better ask to make sure.
Uh-huh.
The now this is, you know, all this has happened that I mentioned. You know, I was born in '66. You're going to, you know, here in a couple of years, if that, you're going to, you know, you're going to pack up and you're married, you have a child, and you're going to go and you're going to move to Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right.
And there's a lot of things. One of the funny things to me was how you had to go about getting married, because it seems like you had to go out of state to do that because of who was old enough to be married in different states. You remember that? I mean,
I certainly do. Yeah, I certainly do. We went to Cumberland, Maryland. And at that time, 1965, at that time, Cumberland, Maryland was known as the marrying capital of the East Coast, because we could go there and get married. I had to have a signature. Now, I was older than, in fact, I still am, older than Kay, but I wasn't old enough. I lacked a little bit in age of being able to get married without a parent's signature. So we went to Cumberland, Maryland. We brought back papers to take to a notary republic, and we took my mother to that person, and she signed for me, and it was notarized. And then we went back to Cumberland and got married. Now, I don't know exactly what all the time frame was of that, but Kay was old enough, even though she was younger than I, she was old enough to be married without a signature. And so we were married in 1965 in Cumberland, Maryland, and I had to be signed for, which my mother did and Kay did not. And we had to borrow a car to get there, and it was a very interesting weekend. I say that I married her for her money. I may have the figures wrong, but it seems like between us we had $17.50, and I had the 50 cents. So I got her money right off the bat.
Yep, he did.
Without going into a lot of family history and everything, Mom, when your mother remarried, your family life was difficult. I mean, it was very challenging.
When my father remarried.
Yeah, when he remarried, and there was a lot of adversity there. So you have the death of your mother when you're really young. He remarries. That's a challenging situation for you.
It was, because he remarried about 3 months after my mother died.
Yeah, so,
So we had another woman to
it's a big adjustment.
adjust.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was a very big adjustment.
So I want to ask you the same question that I asked Dad. How can a person who did not have the TV perfect family, what I'm talking about, have a fruitful and productive life themselves? How can they do that? Is it possible?
Well, I certainly hope so. If not, I'm really fooled. But you just have to go on, and in my case, I could remember Mommy, my mother. I could remember things that she taught us, and I just had to keep going. And then I met Warren, and when I met Warren, when we were dating, I worked at a nursing home, and I was off on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings because I worked the evening time. When I met Warren, if I wanted to see Warren, we went to Bible class together. And so consequently, he taught me the truth. I'd always been interested in the Bible and had attended different kinds of worship services, different kinds of churches. But when I met Warren, and then I learned the truth, and I learned how easy it was. Not that it's easy to live, but how much easier it was to follow the Bible than it was to try to follow all these different creeds and different doctrines that people had. It just seems so easy, and I never have understood why you would want to follow anything else. Why would you want to clutter your mind with so many other things when the Bible is very specific and very easy to understand?
Yeah, they're not going to open the creed books at the judgment.
No, that's right.
That's one of the things I tell people. I say, you're going to be judged by this book.
Right.
Don't you think you at least ought to read it? But sadly, a lot of people, they just don't take the time to do it.
And then when they do read it, they don't want to accept it if it's different than what they've always thought or what they've always been taught. But fortunately, I had a good teacher, and I had a good partner to live with, too.
If I may interrupt, just to inject one thing, she had a second mother in my mother.
That's right.
I always have said, my mother loved Kay more than she loved me.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, speaking of half truths here, let me tell one. Just for the record, just so people know. You are how old?
69.
I know how old you are, but I want you to say it. I don't want to be saying that. You're 69, and you are a little younger.
Yeah, I'm a year younger.
A year younger. All right. Now, if you look, Dad's hair is a little different color than your hair. And I thought, well, you ought to point out that your hair's not, it's your natural color.
That's right.
And some people may think, wow, why is she dyeing her hair? And it's not. And people ask me, where do you get your hair from? That's what they ask. I said, well, I get that from my mom. And the background, I think it's 2 Indian tribes, I think, in our family history and all that. And that's one of the things people ask me. They'll, every once in a while, they'll say, I remember one lady asked me, so you got any, this is the way she put it, she said, you got any Indian blood in you? And I'm like, Indian blood? What are you talking about? Indian blood? You have a big nose or something? Or what are you trying to say? I can say that because I'm an Indian. They're talking about the hair. And so, we're just about out of time. We'll show the meeting flyer, and hopefully, after this, we'll do another interview here, and hopefully you'll be able to come and watch these shows on the TV and make yourself available to do that. And we'll pick up next time where we talk about some of the things that happened in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you very much for watching our program. Before we close our program today, we'd like to take a moment and review this roadmap to heaven with you, since the matter is so serious. There are many incorrect set of directions out there, and sadly so many people are following them. For example, some people have been given wrong turns. They believe things such as faith only, works only, or grace only. Or some attempt to change the order of the turns, being baptized before they even believe. Some people fail to realize what point they are on the map. Don't even open their Bibles yet, and they think they're saved already. As a person travels in a car or takes a hike, it has to follow the proper directions, so we must follow the proper directions to heaven. Let's take a look at the directions on our roadmap to heaven here. You have to look at these passages in your Bible for yourself. We'll just list the steps, the turns on the way. First is to believe or to have faith. And then number 2, to repent, to turn away from sin. Number 3 is to confess that Jesus is the Son of God. Number 4 is immersion, or to be baptized, which is a burial in water to have your sins washed away. And then you're added to the church by the Lord, not by a group of people, or not by giving some kind of testimonial experience or things like that. And then once you're added, you need to serve and worship the Lord faithfully all the days of your life. And that the key word's faithfully. You don't waver. And that's very important. We need to keep in mind too that in Noah's day there was a big flood, and only people in the ark were saved from the flood. The same is true today. There is no salvation outside the Lord's church. Where are you on the roadmap to heaven? Thanks for watching our program. Please let us know if we can assist you with further information for your journey.